Hey, hi everyone. This is Ranmay on your show E-Coffee with Experts. Today we have Mr. Brian Hansen, who is the president at Rocket Pilots. Welcome to our show, Brian.
Thank you for having me.
Superb. Brian, before we move forward and uh, discuss in detail about digital marketing and you share your insights, I would request you to introduce yourself and Rocket Pilots to our audiences today.
Sure, no problem. So my name is Brian Hansen. I'm the founder of Rocket Pilots. We're a boutique style agency, and we're vertically focused on helping law firms increase their revenue through digital marketing. So by way of just a brief background, I come from the big agency world, which really opened my eyes to what I call kind of the mistreatment of small businesses and law firms and attorneys. And what I mean by that is I learned how unethical agencies would impound for ad spend and not tell them how much went to fees and how much went to the media publisher, right? Or this world of all these self-proclaimed experts, right? Like starting a agency because there's no barrier to entry, and then promising the moon and completely under-delivering. So Rocket Pilots was started kind of with the inspiration to solve these problems, right? So we have really old school values, honesty, transparency, accountability, communication, things like that. The things you would hope that every business has, but unfortunately in the digital marketing world, they don't always exist. So yeah, we're having a good time helping attorneys get out of some of the messes that they're in and serving them the best that we possibly can.
Superb. And talking about legal industry, it has become increasingly competitive. Talking about their presence online. So what strategies do you develop or probably implement so that your clients get those traffic against their competition and stand out from the crowd there?
Yeah, it's such an important question because we are seeing it get more and more competitive. So, and you mentioned something of particular importance, and this is standing out from the crowd, right? So we coach our clients on having a very clear USP, unique selling proposition, right? Because it's one thing to do well in SEO and Google Ads and all of these different marketing mediums, right? But let's be frank, others are showing up as well, right? So spending the time to define and properly articulate, your unique selling proposition, which is done, externally. What I mean by that is the perception of the firm, and then internally, when the firm is communicating with them, right? So this is done through high quality designs, right? Because the site is often their first touch point. We recommend videos, but not just any video, videos that humanize the experience, tell the firm's story. And often that is kind of like, why the attorneys decided to get into this business, right? It's a way to connect with their prospective clients. And then once they become a lead, the responsibility kind of shifts to the individuals that the prospective client is speaking with, right? So now it's about a best-in-class experience, right? Making sure there's no buyer remorse when they hire that firm. Yeah. Strong and frequent communication. And then, if you're hiring a law firm, you're probably going through something, right? If it's a PI firm, maybe you were injured. Difficult time. If it's a family law firm, it could be a child custody issue. If it's criminal, you could have trouble with the law, right? So having that empathy, and we feel that when firms get all this right, that is a way for them to stand out, distinguish themselves from the competition. And then what will happen is just that snowball effect is like, it will help their reputation. They'll get the reviews, right? They'll get a name for themselves. And that will work in conjunction with their marketing efforts to get them more cases, which is what they all want.
Absolutely. You didn't mention about reviews, which is a very critical aspect, especially in such a niche, right? So, what does Rocket Pilots do to kind of, engage in those reviews, and what is your perspective of using softwares for reviews and all of that?
Right. So like a lot of our service, like we're even on, like the execution side, or we're a participant in like the consulting and coaching side, which in reviews really represent this well, right? Because what we do as part of our SEO scope of work is we respond to all of the reviews on Google Business Profile on behalf of the client, right? So we know that content, so it's good for SEO, but it's also just good for reputation management. Now, outside of that, we encourage the firm and we offer ourselves as consultants to help them acquire more reviews. Sometimes that's in the form of just conversations and coaching their team on the appropriate dialogue and talk track, right? How do they ask for reviews? Do some of them feel uncomfortable? For PI firms, some of them still have the client come in and pick up the check. And I'm like, hey, I cannot think of a better time to ask somebody for a review when you're actually handing them money, right? So have them do it right there. Like have them pull their cell phone out of their pocket and, get the review. In regards to software, yes, there's some good software. We typically recommend Bird Eye or Podium. It will require, a little bit of time and effort internally to get organized. And it's kind of like, creating this culture, right? That it's not just like the attorney at the top that's like cracking the whip. We need more reviews, right? Everybody internally has to understand the value. Yeah. And the culture needs to participate in that. So yeah, we try to play a role in shaping that for them.
Absolutely, very, very valid point mentioned there in terms of creating that culture of caring for your customers and giving importance to their experience with your business. And at times it is also very critical to not just respond to positive reviews, right? You need to respond to the customers who might not really have had a great experience, and it can kind of fix them, right? Because all those legit reviews are typically like 4.2 to 4.7, 4.8 ish. If it does like a couple of reviews and just 5 stars, as an end consumer, as your prospect who is googling around, probably might not take it in such a legit way that that this business is actually getting honest reviews. So it's a catch-22 situation there. How you want to play around it?
Well, yeah, and you bring up a good point because, we don't just respond to the positive reviews, right? So if it's a negative review, sometimes that requires us to interact with the client before we respond, right? Because this is very important. This is how the public sees them. So that needs to be, crafted with care. And it's quite interesting to engage in these conversations because, intuitively, you think you're responding to that individual, right? And maybe you are a little bit, but really what you're doing is you're responding to the community, right? Because you want to show everyone what your response is and what your viewpoint is and, how you react when things don't go perfectly. Now, and this starts to get a little bit outside of the scope of marketing, but, sometimes it's a good opportunity to have like a conversation with your client and say, hey, like, did something really go wrong here? Like, what happened, right? Like, it could be a time to reflect on it, huddle with your team because, we can try to put this fire out. But more importantly, is this a consequence of a business operation that, needs to be perfected, right? So you can have less of these in the future, right? So
absolutely. As a marketer, if you have signed a project with your client, what I feel is, we should actually go beyond our terms and conditions in the contract and feel as if they are our own business and take care of it from that perspective, and also take that extra yard to understand what operational difficulties that they might have had, and then probably we can actually go out and solve the major problem of positioning them online versus just sticking to, let's say, the SEO terminologies, the link building aspects of it, of the business, right? So glad you mentioned that.
It's a tightrope, right? Because you're like, you don't want to do things that are too far out of the scope of work, so you don't have scope creep, and you're also not really good at them. But also, like you said, like internally, I think we have that culture of over delivering, right? And if
Right.
the client is coming to us for help and it's something that maybe wasn't like specifically in the contract, but it's clearly relevant, yeah, we're going to be there to help, even if it's just from a coaching and consulting perspective, right? So, yeah.
Absolutely. And that is what probably, differentiates you and makes you stand out of the crowd there. Perfect. Great. And as a digital marketing expert, what are some of the most effective ways to identify and target, ideal client demography for a law firm in a local market? And, what
Yeah.
strategies would you recommend for tailoring the marketing efforts to that audience?
Yeah, really important question. I'm kind of chuckling, right? Because like when marketers talk about how they market their agency, it's
Mhm.
very easy to create their ideal client profile, right? But when you talk about attorneys, uh, it's so much more circumstantial, right? And it depends
Right.
on like, what platform are we talking about, right? So I'm going to use personal injury a lot as an example, but like if you think about a PI firm and who their ideal client profile is, right? Well, in reality, anybody could be the victim of negligence, right? Anybody could be in a car accident and find that they need a PI attorney, right? But there are some takeaway points. Like we have learned that the more like affluent communities typically have like a lawyer in their network or somebody that knows somebody, right? So often those aren't really ideal. And then you run into like some restrictions on the platforms, right? On how detailed you can get with the targeting. So a lot of what we do is kind of like more search marketing, so when they're bottom of funnel. But yeah, and just kind of these learnings we have from so much spend on Google ads or all these different SEO campaigns. So a few things for sure that stand out are, the target areas and who are the folks that live there, and then device targeting, right? Because we see this huge trend in mobile. And then lastly, kind of like what I touched on in the first question, is the client, has their pulse on that. They know who their perfect client is. So then once we're kind of having a better understanding of that, we want to make sure all the assets, align with their brand and is speaking to their ideal client profile. Yeah.
Absolutely. And talking about brand, obviously it plays an important role, but as per you, what exactly, how important is it for the success of a law firm, especially in a local crowded market, and, what do you do to build a strong and recognizable brand, create that brand voice in that demography. So how do you play around with it?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because we kind of see this trend, especially in personal branding for attorneys. I think it's kind of slow moving, but there are some use cases of some lawyers that are doing some outstanding work there. So if you're an attorney, the first thing you do is you have some courage, right? Because to build that brand, you kind of have to break out of your shell and know that you're probably going to be in a vulnerable situation, perhaps over and over again, but it's a good opportunity for you to distinguish yourself from competing law firms. So typically this is accomplished on social media, right? So, and my advice to anybody who's going to go into the personal branding space or take that on as an initiative is to, kind of pick a platform and do the best that you can there, right? So don't try to do everything. Don't say you're going to post on LinkedIn, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram Reels, right? It's just too much.
Too much.
So understand where your clients are, what platform they are engaging in the most, and
Mhm.
create content for that, right? Try to get some success there. And, we're talking about branding, right? So this is a way for you to demonstrate your expertise, right? So position yourself as a subject matter expert, have that brand awareness where you're always showing up, right? And then just demonstrate to the community what you're doing, how you take care of clients. It takes a big effort. It takes a lot of planning and often a lot of videos and post-production and all those things. So, but if you're willing to put in the work, it can certainly pay off.
Absolutely. You did mention about so many platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, and others. In your experience, how do law firms incorporate social media into their digital marketing strategy? And, if there are any tricks up your sleeve which you want to share, you'd be glad to hear about that.
Yeah, of course. So, when I think about social for attorneys, I kind of categorize it into two different categories, right? If you're doing some of the stuff I was talking about in the personal branding side, you're going to want to strike gold on the organic social, right? Which we know is going to take some time and kind of get the algorithms, working in your favor, right? Because what we see a lot of are law firms that they're posting on social, right? It's relatively irregular, or they've hired a social media agency and they're like, we do 4 postings a month. And it's like, all right. And then you go look at wherever it's going and there's not really any followers, right? And it's kind of that tough conversation. It's like, do you know you're just like, posting to the same 50 people, right? So first you kind of have to decide, like, are we going on the organic, right? And then go deep, not wide, right? So pick, Instagram and, keep the content quality really high. Or are we going, on the paid side, which you'll run into some publisher restrictions depending on the practice area. We know in terms of like tricks up our sleeve, it's really effective for class action and mass torts, right? So paid advertising on Facebook and Instagram. That's because you have less restrictions for that genre of the law, and flat out the customers are there. So if you know what you're doing, you can acquire them at a cost-effective price point, right? So, yeah, I think for lawyers, it's really just deciding if they're going the organic or paid route, and then having a plan. I typically recommend paid social media marketing after mature Google Ads campaigns, right? So once they have like a nice data set of what is successful for them in terms of cost per lead, cost per call, cost per acquired case from paid marketing results, then those are some benchmarks that you could bring over to some other, social media marketing platforms and see if you can't get the same or better results there.
Absolutely. And in terms of local SEO for law firms, what do you feel are the most effective strategies for building citations and directory listings and ensuring that those listings are accurate and consistent across different platforms?
Okay, so for citations specifically, really the goal is simple. You want to build more citations than your competitors, right? Now, the good thing here is everybody's link profile, everybody's citation profile is public and accessible through SEO software, right? So I'm telling you what to do, but I want to tell you what to avoid, right? You want to avoid the very like cookie cutter citation plan. So if an agency is like, yeah, we handle citations, we use Yext, we got you covered. It's like, okay, that is not a plan, because in law firm marketing, it's just like this pyramid of like who can do more, and you're never done because everyone's trying to outdo each other. Okay, so for us specifically, we use a variety of different softwares. We've already done the hard work of which ones don't create duplicates, and then from there we have kind of a product we've created where it's a comprehensive list of niche legal directories. We build it by hand, but that's a good thing because we feel that most of the competitors of our clients are probably not doing that. And then when we're done with that initiative, we take the top competitors in the space and we aggregate like a big spreadsheet with all their citations, and then we get to work making sure that basically no one has citations that our client doesn't have. So I guess like it's kind of the Grant Cardone mentality when it comes to citations, and that's how lawyers should be thinking. It's like, whatever you're doing right now, 10x it, and trust me, there's a way that you can. So.
Great, superb. And before we kind of let you go, Brian, I have to ask you this: the burning topic about Chat GPT, AI content, right?
Yeah.
And content writers scared of their jobs right now, and all this artificial intelligence storm that we all are in right now.
Sure.
What's your take on it?
So yeah, I'll give you my viewpoint, and then I'll tell you what we're up to. But I think just in general with AI and law firms, a lot of attorneys are having kind of this FOMO feeling, right? Like they're missing out. And what's happening right now, it feels like every day there's like 15 more tools that are being built, right? So lawyers and the management at law firms have to be particularly protective of their time. So don't go FOMO into every new AI app that comes out, right? Many of them won't be around in the years to come, and the cream will kind of rise to the top. Now, if I look 5 years out, right, I think AI will be part of every business operation aspect of a law firm, right? That's just how I feel, right? So from intake to practice management software to internal and external communications and things like that. So yeah, you mentioned Chat GPT, which is obviously the talk of the town right now. So what we're doing is, first I would say we're just paying attention, right? And we're using Chat GPT as a tool, right? And what I mean by that is it's really like in the same category as SEMrush, Ahrefs, BuzzSumo, right? It's really great for research, for ideas about what topics should we create, or outlining, briefing. But in my opinion, it does not have a place without the human component, right? So it's just not there yet. So when we're creating content, humans are still actively involved in outlines and briefing and writing it and editing. And we've done this exercise several times of comparing a piece of Chat GPT content to one that was done by like a really good writer, and the writer is still winning. Plus there's still kind of this asterisk of the unknown, right? Like I think a lot of people are confused about what Google knows and what Google doesn't know, but they actually have well documented material that was around before Chat GPT came out about how they detect AI content, right? So we're still kind of in this phase of like, what will they be doing in the future? So yeah, but definitely an exciting time.
Yeah, exciting times ahead for sure.
Yeah.
Great. And then Brian, before we let you go and wrap this up, I would like to play a quick rapid fire with you. I hope you're game for it.
Yeah, let's go.
Great. Your favorite book?
My favorite book is a book called A Shark Never Sleeps by Drew Rosenhaus, which is a sports agent. So very inspiring story, and highly recommend it.
Great. And are you a morning person or a night person?
So I am a night person, but I am trying to become a morning person just for so many reasons about, productivity. And I do have 2 little ones, so they're helping me with that transition for sure.
Great. We all are in that battle forever.
Yeah.
What was your last Google search?
The last Google search I did was probably news or finance related, which is normally how I start my mornings, just kind of see what's going on in the world.
Typical agency owner talking about finance there. Great. And if a movie was made on your life or on you, what genre would it be?
I don't know. Hopefully something upbeat and cheerful. I try to stay as positive as possible and hope that kind of resonates with the people that I interact with, whether that's loved ones or in a professional setting. And I love any movie that is based on a true story or is like a success story. So hopefully something like that in the end, but we'll see.
Great, lovely. And thank you so much, Brian. I'll not grind you any further. Okay. Thank you so much, Brian, for taking out time for this podcast. Really appreciate this, and I'm sure that our audiences would have benefited a lot in terms of what they heard about doing SEO and digital marketing for law firms in particular. And really appreciate you taking out time to do this with us.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It was an honor. So very much appreciated.
Thank you.